Cambodia, officially the Kingdom of Cambodia, is a country in mainland Southeast Asia. It is bordered by Thailand to the northwest, Laos to the north, and Vietnam to the east, and has a coastline along the Gulf of Thailand in the southwest. It spans an area of 181,035 square kilometers, 69,898 square miles, dominated by a low-lying plain and the confluence of the Mekong River and Tone Sap, Southeast Asia's largest lake. It is dominated by a tropical climate. Cambodia has a population of about 17 million people, the majority of which are ethnically Khmer. Its capital and most populous city is Phnom Penh, followed by Sime Reap and Battambang, 15. In 802 AD, Jayavarman II declared himself king, uniting the warring Khmer princes of Chenla under the name Cambodia, 16. This marked the beginning of the Khmer Empire. The Indianized kingdom facilitated the spread of first Hinduism and then Buddhism to Southeast Asia and undertook religious infrastructural projects throughout the region, the most famous of which is Angkor Wat. In the 15th century, it began a decline in power until, in 1863, Cambodia became a French protectorate. Following Japanese occupation during World War II, Cambodia declared independence from France in 1953. The Vietnam War embroiled the country in civil war during the 1960s, culminating in a 1970 coup which installed the US-aligned Khmer Republic and the takeover of the Communist Khmer Rouge in 1975. The Khmer Rouge ruled the country and carried out the Cambodian genocide from 1975 until 1979, until they were ousted during the Cambodian-Vietnamese War. Peace was restored by the 1991 Paris Peace Accords and subsequent United Nations peacekeeping mission, establishing a new constitution, holding the 1993 general election, and ending long-term insurgencies. The 1997 coup d'etat consolidated power under Prime Minister Hun Sen and the Cambodian People's Party (CPP). Cambodia is a constitutional monarchy and multi-party state. 17 Although the CPP dominates the political system, 18 The UN designates Cambodia a least developed country. 19 Agriculture remains its dominant economic sector, with growth in textiles, construction, garments, and tourism leading to increased foreign investment and international trade. 20 Corruption, human rights issues, and deforestation have remained challenges in Cambodia's post-conflict development. The official and most widely spoken language is Khmer, and the most widely practiced religion is Buddhism. The country's culture and traditions are shaped by its Angkorean heritage and international influences over its history. The Kingdom of Cambodia is the official English name of the country. The English Cambodia is an anglicization of the French Cambodge, which in turn is the French transliteration of the Khmer Kmche, pronounced Kampusi. Kmche is the shortened alternative to the country's official name in Khmer Prear Achanakar Kmche, pronounced Priarisnikak Kampusi. The Khmer endonym Kmche derives from the Sanskrit name Cambojadia, composed of D, land of or country of, and Cambodia, referring to the descendants of Kambu, a legendary Indian sage from the ancient Indian Kingdom of Cambodia. 21. The term Cambodia was already in use in Europe as early as 1524, since Antonio Pigafetta cites it in his work Relazione del Primo Viaggio intorno al mondo 15-415-5 as Cambodia. 22 scholar George Coedes refers to a 10th century inscription of a Cambodian dynastic legend in which the hermit Kambu Swayambhuva and the celestial nymph Mera unite and establish the Cambodian solar royal dynasty Kambu Mera that begins with the Chenla ruler Srudavarman and his son Shresthavarman. Coedes suggests that the Kambu Swayambhuva legend has its origins in southern India as a version of the Kanchi Pallava dynasty creation myth. 2324 History Main article, History of Cambodia Prehistomary article, Early History of Cambodia glazed stoneware dating back to the 12th century. There exists evidence for a Pleistocene human occupation of what later is Cambodia, which includes quartz and quartzite pebble tools found in terraces along the Mekong River, in Stung Treng and Krati provinces, and in Kampot Province. 25. Some archaeological evidence shows communities of hunter-gatherers inhabited the region during the Holocene. The most ancient archaeological discovery site in Cambodia is considered to be the Cave of Long Speen, which belongs to the Hoabinhian period. Excavations in its lower layers produced a series of radiocarbon dates around 6000 BC. 2526 upper layers in the same site gave evidence of transition to Neolithic, containing the earliest dated earthenware ceramics in Cambodia. 27 archaeological records for the period between the Holocene and Iron Age remain equally limited. An event in prehistory was the penetration of the first rice farmers from the north, which began in the 3rd millennium BC. 28. Prehistoric evidence are the circular earthworks discovered in the red soils near Mehmet and in the adjacent region of Vietnam in the latter 1950 seconds. Their function and age are still debated, and some of them possibly date from the 2nd millennium BC. 2930 Other prehistoric sites of somewhat uncertain date are Samrong Sen, not far from the ancient capital of Aodong, where the first investigations began in 1875-31, and Phum Sne, in the northern province of Banteay Meanchey. 32. Iron was worked by about 500 BC, with supporting evidence coming from the Korat Plateau, in what later is Thailand. In Cambodia, some Iron Age settlements were found beneath Bak Se Cham Krong and other Angkorian temples, while circular earthworks were discovered at the site of Luvia kilometers northwest of Angkor. Burials testify to improvement of food availability and trade, and the existence of a social structure and labor organization. 33 kinds of glass beads recovered from sites, such as the Phum Sne site in the northwest and the Prohir site in the southeast, suggest that there were two main trading networks at the time. The two networks were separated by time and space, which indicate that there was a shift from one network to the other at about the 2nd and 4th century AD, probably due to changes in socio-political powers. 33 Pre-Angkorian, Angkorian, and post-Angkor main articles, Kingdom of Funan, Chenla, Khmer Empire, and post-Angkor Period Angkor What Faces of Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara at Prasit Bayan during the 3rd, 4th, and 5th centuries. The Indianized states of Funan and its successor, Chenla, coalesced in what later is Cambodia and southwestern Vietnam. For more than 2,000 years, what was to become Cambodia absorbed influences from India, passing them on to other Southeast Asian civilizations that later became Thailand and Laos. 34 The Khmer Empire grew out of the remnants of Chenla, becoming firmly established in 802 when Jayavarman II reigned. C790-C835 declared independence from Java and proclaimed themselves a Devaraya. They and their followers instituted the cult of the god king and began a series of conquests that formed an empire which flourished in the area from the 9th to the 15th centuries. 35. During the rule of Jayavarman VIII, the Angkor Empire was attacked by the Mongol army of Kublai Khan. The king was able to buy peace. 36. Around the 13th century, Theravada missionaries from Sri Lanka reintroduced Theravada Buddhism to Southeast Asia, having sent missionaries previously in the 1190s. 3738. The religion spread and eventually displaced Hinduism and Mahayana Buddhism as the popular religion of Angkor. It was not the official state religion until 1295 when Indravarman III took power. 39. The Khmer Empire was Southeast Asia's largest empire during the 12th century. The empire's center of power was Angkor, where a series of capitals were constructed during the empire's zenith. In 2007, an international team of researchers using satellite photographs and other modern techniques concluded that Angkor had been the largest pre-industrial city in the world with an urban sprawl of 2,980 square kilometers 1,151 square miles, 40 The city could have supported a population of up to 1 million people. 41. After a series of wars with neighboring kingdoms, Angkor was sacked by the Ayutthaya kingdom and abandoned in 1432 because of ecological failure and infrastructure breakdown. 40-43. A map of Indochina in 1760. The Hill tribe people were hunted incessantly and carried off as slaves by the Siamese Thai, the Annamites Vietnamese, and the Cambodians. 44-45. Formerly part of the Khmer Empire, the Mekong Delta had been controlled by the Vietnamese since 1698. 46. With King Chetha II granting the Vietnamese permission to settle in the area decades before. 47. French colonization in 1863. King Norodom signed a treaty of protection with France. 16. The Protectorate of France period lasted until 1953, with a brief interruption while the kingdom was occupied by the Japanese Empire from 1941 to 1945-48 and simultaneously existing as the puppet state of Kingdom of Cambodia in 1945. Between 1874 and 1962, the total population increased from about 946,000 to 5.7 million. 49. After King Norodom's death in 1904, France manipulated the choice of king, and Sisowath, Norodom's brother, was placed on the throne. The throne became vacant in 1941 with the death of Monavong, Sisowath's son, and France passed over Monavong's son, Monarath, feeling he was too independently minded. Instead, Norodom Sihanouk, a maternal grandson of King Sisowath, was enthroned. The French thought young Sihanouk would be easy to control. 48. Under the reign of King Norodom Sihanouk, Cambodia gained independence from France on 9 November 1953. 48. Kingdom 1953-1970. Main article, Kingdom of Cambodia 1953-1970. In 1955, Sihanouk abdicated in favor of his father to participate in politics and was elected prime minister. Upon his father's death in 1960, Sihanouk again became head of state, taking the title of prince. As the Vietnam War progressed, Sihanouk adopted an official policy of neutrality in the Cold War. Sihanouk allowed the Vietnamese communists to use Cambodia as a sanctuary and a supply route for their arms and other aid to their armed forces fighting in South Vietnam. In December 1967, Washington Post journalist Stanley Carno was told by Sihanouk that if the US wanted to bomb the Vietnamese communist sanctuaries, he would not object unless Cambodians were killed. 50. Norodom Sihanouk and Mao Zedong in 1956. The same message was conveyed to us President Johnson's emissary Chester Bowles in January 1968. 51. In public, Sihanouk refuted the right of the U.S. to use airstrikes in Cambodia, and on 26 March, he said these criminal attacks must immediately and definitively stop. On 28 March, a press conference was held and Sihanouk appealed to the international media. I appeal to you to publicize abroad this very clear stand of Cambodia that is, I will, in any case, oppose all bombings on Cambodian territory under whatever pretext. Nevertheless, the bombing continued. 52. Khmer Republic 1970-1975. Main articles, Khmer Republic and Cambodian Civil War. While visiting Beijing in 1970, Sihanouk was ousted by a military coup led by Prime Minister General Lon Nol and Prince Sisowath Sirikh. Once the coup was completed, the new regime, which demanded that the Vietnamese communists leave Cambodia, gained the political support of the United States. The North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces, desperate to retain their sanctuaries and supply lines from North Vietnam, launched armed attacks on the new government. The king urged his followers to help in overthrowing this government, hastening the onset of civil war. 54. Tens of thousands of people were killed during the US bombing of Cambodia between 1970 and 1973. 55. Operation Eagle. Khmer Rouge rebels began using him to gain support. From 1970 until 1972, the Cambodian conflict was largely between the government and army of Cambodia and the armed forces of North Vietnam. As they gained control of Cambodian territory, the Vietnamese communists imposed a new political infrastructure, which was eventually dominated by the Cambodian communists now referred to as the Khmer Rouge. 56. Documents uncovered from the Soviet archives after 1991 reveal that the North Vietnamese attempt to overrun Cambodia in 1970 was launched at the explicit request of the Khmer Rouge and negotiated by Pol Pot's then second-in-command, Nuon Chi. 57. NVA units overran Cambodia army positions while the Communist Party of Kampuchea CPAK expanded their attacks on lines of communication. In response to the North Vietnamese invasion, US President Richard Nixon announced that US and South Vietnamese ground forces had entered Cambodia in a campaign aimed at destroying NVA base areas in Cambodia. See Cambodian Incursion. 58 On New Year's Day 1975, Communist troops launched an offensive which, in 117 days, led to the collapse of the Khmer Republic. Simultaneous attacks around the perimeter of Phnom Penh pinned down Republican forces, while other CPAK units overran fire bases controlling the vital lower Mekong resupply route. A US-funded airlift of ammunition and rice ended when Congress refused additional aid for Cambodia. The Lon Nol government in Phnom Penh surrendered on April 17, 1975, 5 days after the US mission evacuated Cambodia. 59. Estimates as to how many people were killed by the Khmer Rouge regime range from approximately 1 to 3 million. A cited figure is 2 million, about a quarter of the population, 60-61-62. This era gave rise to the term killing fields, and the prison tool slang became known for its history of mass killing. Hundreds of thousands fled across the border into neighboring Thailand. The regime disproportionately targeted ethnic minority groups. The Cham Muslims underwent purges with as much as half of their population exterminated. 63. Pol Pot was determined to keep his power and disenfranchise any enemies or potential threats, and thus increased his violent and aggressive actions against his people. 64. Forced repatriation in 1970 and deaths during the Khmer Rouge era reduced the Vietnamese population in Cambodia from between 250,000 and 300,000 in 1969 to a reported 56,000 in 1984. 49. Most of the victims of the Khmer Rouge regime were not ethnic minorities but ethnic Khmer. Professionals, such as doctors, lawyers, and teachers, were targeted. According to Robert D. Kaplan, eyeglasses were as deadly as the yellow star as they were seen as a sign of intellectualism. 65. Religious institutions were targeted by the Khmer Rouge. The majority of Khmer architecture, 95% of Cambodia's Buddhist temples, were destroyed. 66. Vietnamese occupation and transition 1978-1992. Main articles: People's Republic of Kampuchea, Cambodian-Vietnamese War, Cambodian Conflict 1979-1998, and United Nations-administered Cambodia. November 1978, Vietnamese troops invaded Cambodia in response to border raids by the Khmer Rouge. 67 and conquered it. The People's Republic of Kampuchea (PRC) was established as a pro-Soviet state led by the Kampuchean People's Revolutionary Party, a party created by the Vietnamese in 1951, and led by a group of Khmer Rouge who had fled Cambodia to avoid being purged by Pol Pot and Tam Mok. 68. It was fully beholden to the occupying Vietnamese army and under the direction of the Vietnamese ambassador to Phnom Penh. Its arms came from Vietnam and the Soviet Union. 69. In opposition to the newly created state, a government in exile referred to as the Coalition Government of Democratic Kampuchea (CGDAC) was formed in 1981 from 3 factions. 69. This consisted of the Khmer Rouge, a royalist faction led by Sihanouk, and the Khmer People's National Liberation Front. Its credentials were recognized by the United Nations. The Khmer Rouge representative Tuan Thien Prasith was retained, and he had to work in consultation with representatives of the non-communist Cambodian parties. 70-71. The refusal of Vietnam to withdraw from Cambodia led to economic sanctions. 72. Peace efforts began in Paris in 1989 under the state of Cambodia, culminating 2 years later in October 1991 in a Paris Comprehensive Peace Settlement. The UN was given a mandate to enforce a ceasefire and deal with refugees and disarmament known as the United Nations Transitional Authority in Cambodia UNTAC. 73. Kingdom 1993 Main article: Modern Cambodia 1993. The monarchy was restored with Norodom Sihanouk reinstated as king, and the first post-war election was coordinated by UNTAC. The election was won by Phun Senpek led by Sihanouk's son Ranariddh in a hung parliament. A power-sharing agreement was agreed with Ranariddh and Hun Sen of the Cambodian People's Party, both simultaneously being co-prime ministers after the CPP threatened to secede part of the country if power was fully transferred to Phun Senpek. The stability established following the conflict was shaken in 1997 by a coup d'état led by the co-prime minister Hun Sen, who ousted Ranariddh and other parties represented in the government and consolidated power for CP. 74-75. After its government was able to stabilize under Sen, Cambodia was accepted into the Association of Southeast Asian Nations (ASEAN) on 30 April 1999, 7677. Norodom Sihamoni was crowned Cambodia's king in 2004 after his father Sihanouk's abdication, 78. During the 1990s and 2002, reconstruction efforts progressed, which led to some political stability through a multi-party democracy under a constitutional monarchy. 79. Although Sen's rule has been marred by human rights abuses and corruption, 80. Cambodia's economy grew rapidly in the 2000s and 2010s, 81, and it received considerable investment and infrastructure development support from China as part of its Belt and Road Initiative. 82. Anti-government protests supporting opposition party CNEB followed the 2013 general election. A unbacked war crimes tribunal, the Khmer Rouge Tribunal, sought out to investigate crimes committed during the Democratic Kampuchea period and prosecute its leaders. Hun Sen has opposed extensive trials or investigations of former Khmer Rouge officials. 83. In July 2010, Kang Kek-yu was the first Khmer Rouge member found guilty of war crimes and crimes against humanity in his role as the former commandant of the S-21 extermination camp, and he was sentenced to life in prison. 84-85. After the 2013 Cambodian general election, allegations of voter fraud from opposition party Cambodia National Rescue Party led to widespread anti-government protests that continued. The protests ended after a crackdown by government forces. 86-87. The Cambodia National Rescue Party was dissolved ahead of the 2018 Cambodian general election, and the ruling Cambodian People's Party also enacted tighter curbs on mass media. 88. The CPP won every seat in the National Assembly without major opposition, effectively solidifying de facto one-party rule in the country. 89-90. Prime Minister Hun Sen assumed office 40 years ago and is one of the world's longest-serving leaders. He has been accused of crackdowns on opponents and critics. In December 2021, Hun Sen announced his support for his son Hun Man-ae to succeed him after the next general election in 2023. 91. A July 2023 Human Rights Watch report showed election fraud and vote tampering in the June 2022 commune elections. 92. In the July 2023 election, the ruling Cambodian People's Party CPP won by a landslide in an election after the disqualification of a Cambodia's opposition Candlelight Party. 93. On August 22, 2023, Hun Man-ae was sworn in as the new Cambodian Prime Minister. 94. Cambodia has an area of 181,035 square kilometers, 69,898 square miles, and lies entirely within the tropics, between latitudes 10 and 15 and longitudes 102 and 108 e. It borders Thailand to the north and west, Laos to the northeast, and Vietnam to the east and southeast. It has a 443-kilometer 275-mile coastline along the Gulf of Thailand. 1479. Cambodia's landscape is characterized by a low-lying central plain that is surrounded by uplands and low mountains and includes the Tone Sap Great Lake and the upper reaches of the Mekong River Delta. Extending outward from this central region are transitional plains, thinly forested and rising to elevations of about 650 feet 200 meters above sea level. 95-96. In Cambodia, forest cover is around 46% of the total land area, equivalent to 8,068,370 hectares ha of forest in 2020, down from 11,004,790 hectares in 2020. Naturally regenerating forest covered 7,464,400 hectares ha, and planted forest covered 603,970 hectares ha. Of the naturally regenerating forest, 4% was reported to be primary forest consisting of native tree species with no clearly visible indications of human activity. For the year 2015, 100% of the forest area was reported to be under public ownership. 97-98. To the north, the Cambodian plain abuts a sandstone escarpment, which forms a southward-facing cliff stretching more than 200 miles 320 kilometers from west to east and rising abruptly above the plain to heights of 600 to 1,800 feet 180550 meters. This cliff marks the southern limit of the DGRK Mountains. 99-100-101. Flowing south through Cambodia's eastern regions is the Mekong River. 102. East of the Mekong, the transitional plains gradually merge with the eastern highlands, a region of forested mountains and high plateaus that extend into Laos and Vietnam. 103. In southwestern Cambodia, two distinct upland blocks, the Cravan Mountains and the Demare Mountains, form another highland region that covers much of the land area between the Tone Sap and the Gulf of Thailand. 104 In this largely uninhabited area, Phnom Oral, Cambodia's highest peak rises to an elevation of 5,949 feet 1,813 meters. 105 The southern coastal region adjoining the Gulf of Thailand is a narrow lowland strip, heavily wooded and sparsely populated, which is isolated from the central plain by the southwestern highlands. 106 The most distinctive geographical feature is the inundations of the Tone Sap, measuring about 2,590 square kilometers 1,000 square miles during the dry season and expanding to about 24,605 square kilometers 9,500 square miles. This densely populated plain, which is devoted to wet rice cultivation, is the heartland of Cambodia. Much of this area has been designated as a biosphere reserve. 107 Climatech Climate Classification Map of Cambodia. Cambodia's climate, like that of the rest of Southeast Asia, is dominated by monsoons, which are known as tropical wet and dry because of the distinctly marked seasonal differences. 106-108 Cambodia has a temperature range from 21 to 35 C 70 to 95 F and experiences tropical monsoons. 108 Southwest monsoons blow inland, bringing moisture-laden winds from the Gulf of Thailand and Indian Ocean from May to October. 109 The northeast monsoon ushers in the dry season, which lasts from November to April. 110 The country experiences the heaviest precipitation from September to October, with the driest period occurring from January to February. 111 According to the International Development Research Center and the United Nations, Cambodia is considered Southeast Asia's most vulnerable country to the effects of climate change, alongside the Philippines. 112-113 Nearly all provinces in Cambodia are affected by climate change. 114 Rural coastal populations are particularly at risk. Shortages of clean water, extreme flooding, mudslides, higher sea levels, and potentially destructive storms are of particular concern, according to the Cambodia Climate Change Alliance. Climate change has also had a major impact on water levels, ecology, and productivity of the Tone Sap in recent years, affecting the food security and agriculture of a large proportion of Cambodia's population. 115-116 Cambodia has two distinct seasons. The rainy season, which runs from May to October, can see temperatures drop to 20 to C 72 F and is generally accompanied with high humidity. The dry season lasts from November to April, when temperatures can rise up to 40 C 10 F around April. Disastrous flooding occurred in 2001 and again in 2002, with some degree of flooding almost every year. 117 Severe flooding also affected 17 provinces in Cambodia during the 2020 Pacific typhoon season. 118 Cambodia's biodiversity is largely founded on its seasonal tropical forests, containing some 180 recorded tree species and riparian ecosystems. There are 212 mammal species, 536 bird species, 240 reptile species, 850 freshwater fish species Tone Sap Lake area, and 435 marine fish species recorded by science. Much of this biodiversity is contained around the Tone Sap Lake and the surrounding biosphere. 119 The Tone Sap Biosphere Reserve is a reserve surrounding the Tone Sap Lake. It encompasses the lake and 9 provinces: Kampong Thom, Sime Reap, Battambang, Pursat, Kampong Chnang, Banteay Meanchey Palin, Otter Meanchey, and Pria Vihir. In 1997, it was successfully nominated as a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. 120 Other key habitats include the evergreen and dry dipterocarp forests of Mondulkiri Province, protected by Keo Sime Wildlife Sanctuary, Phnom Penh Wildlife Sanctuary, and Trapak Wildlife Sanctuary, as well as Ratanakiri Province and the Cardamom Mountains ecosystem, including Pria Manavong National Park, Bodam Sakar National Park, and the Phnom Oral Wildlife Sanctuary and Phnom Samkos Wildlife Sanctuary. The Worldwide Fund for Nature recognizes 6 distinct terrestrial ecoregions in Cambodia: the Cardamom Mountains rainforests, Central Indochina dry forest, Southeast Indochina dry evergreen forest, Southern Annamite Range tropical forest, Tone Sap freshwater swamp forest, and Tone Sap Mekong peat swamp forest. 1:1 Waterfall at Phnom Kulanpri Lang Forsyth. Rate of deforestation in Cambodia is one of the highest in the world, and it is often perceived as the most destructive, singular environmental issue in the country. 1:2 Cambodia's primary forest cover fell from over 70% in 1969 to just 3.1% in 2007. Since 2007, less than 3,220 square kilometers 1.2 for 3 sq of primary forest remain, with the result that the future sustainability of the forest reserves of Cambodia is under severe threat. 1-3, 1-4. In 2010 to 2015, the annual rate of deforestation was 1.3%. The environmental degradation also includes national parks and wildlife sanctuaries on a large scale, and many endangered and endemic species are now threatened with extinction due to loss of habitats. Reasons for the deforestation in Cambodia range from opportunistic illegal loggings to large-scale clearings from big construction projects and agricultural activities. The deforestation involves the local population, Cambodian businesses and authorities, as well as transnational corporations from all over the world. 1-5, 1-6 plans for hydroelectric development in the greater Mekong subregion by Laos in particular pose a real danger to the food supply of Vietnam and Cambodia. Upstream dams will imperil the fish stocks that provide the vast majority of Cambodia's protein and could also denude the Mekong River of the silt Vietnam needs for its rice basket. The rich fisheries of Tone Sap, the largest freshwater lake in Southeast Asia, largely supply the impoverished country's protein. The lake all but disappears in the dry season and then expands massively as water flow from the Mekong backs up when the rains come. Those fish are so important for their livelihoods, both economically and nutritionally, said Gordon Holtgreave, a professor at the University of Washington. He points out that none of the dams that are either built or being built on the Mekong River are pointing at good outcomes for the fisheries. 1-7 in the 2010s, the Cambodian government and educational system has increased its involvement and cooperation with both national and international environmental groups. 1-8, 1-9, 130. A new National Environmental Strategy and Action Plan (NESAP) for Cambodia is to be implemented from late 2016 to 2023 and contains new ideas for how to incite a green and environmentally sustainable growth for the country. 131 Administrative Divisions. Main article: Administrative Divisions of Cambodia. The Autonomous Municipality Reach Thani and Provinces Keat of Cambodia are first-level administrative divisions. Cambodia is divided into 25 provinces, including the autonomous municipality. Municipalities and districts are the second-level administrative divisions of Cambodia. The provinces are subdivided into 159 districts and 26 municipalities. The districts and municipalities in turn are further divided into communes (cum) and quarters (sangkat). Legislative powers are shared by the executive and the bicameral Parliament of Cambodia, Svatamnang Araster, which consists of a lower house, the National Assembly, (A), and an upper house, the Senate, (A). Members of the 1-3-seat National Assembly are elected through a system of proportional representation and serve for a maximum term of 5 years. The Senate has 61 seats, 2 of which are appointed by the king and 2 others by the National Assembly, and the rest elected by the commune councillors from the 24 provinces of Cambodia. Senators serve 6-year terms. 133 Officially a multi-party democracy, in reality, the country remained a one-party state dominated by the Cambodian People's Party and Prime Minister Hun Sen, a recast Khmer Rouge official in power since 1985. The open doors to new investment during his reign have yielded the most access to a coterie of cronies of his and his wife, Bun Rainey, according to Mega Buri, a writer on Forbes. 134 Cambodia's government has been described by Human Rights Watch's Southeast Asian director, David Roberts, as a relatively authoritarian coalition via a superficial democracy. 135 Prime Minister Hun Sen vowed to rule until he turned 74. 136 86. His government was regularly accused of ignoring human rights and suppressing political dissent. The 2013 election results were disputed by the opposition, leading to demonstrations in the capital. Demonstrators were injured and killed in Phnom Penh, where a reported 20,000 protesters gathered, with some clashing with riot police. 137. From a humble farming background, Hun Sen was 33 when he took power in 1985, and was by some considered a long-ruling dictator. 138. Hun Sen was succeeded by his son Hun Man-a as prime minister in August 2023 following an election that was deemed by independent and foreign media and politicians to be neither free nor fair. 567. Hun Sen remains the de facto ruler of Cambodia through his continued leadership of the Cambodian People's Party. 139 Following the 2024 Senate election, Hun Sen became president of the Senate, a role which gives him the power to sign off on laws in the king's absence. 140 Since the 2017 crackdowns on political dissent and free press, Cambodia has been described as a de facto one-party state. 14114-143 Foreign Relations Main article, Foreign Relations of Cambodian Prime Minister Hun Sen meets with US President Joe Biden during the 2022 ASEAN Summit in Phnom Penh. Cambodia has established diplomatic relations with other countries. The government reports 20 embassies in the country. 144 including some of its Asian neighbors and those of important players during the Paris peace negotiations, including the US, Australia, Canada, China, the European Union EU, Japan, and Russia. 145 Prime Minister Hun Manet with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba, 30 May 2025 While the violent ruptures of the 1970s and 1980 seconds have passed, several border disputes between Cambodia and its neighbors persist. There are disagreements over some offshore islands and sections of the boundary with Vietnam and undefined maritime boundaries. Cambodia and Thailand have border disputes, with troops clashing over land immediately adjacent to the Preah Vihear temple in particular, leading to a deterioration in relations. Most of the territory belongs to Cambodia, and a combination of Thailand disrespecting international law, Thai troops upbuild in the area, and lack of resources for the Cambodian military have left the situation unsettled since 1962. 146-147 Cambodia and China have cultivated ties in the 2010s. A Chinese company with the support of the People's Liberation Army built a deep-water seaport along 90 kilometers 56 mi stretch of Cambodian coastline of the Gulf of Thailand in Mekong province. The port is sufficiently deep to be used by cruise ships, bulk carriers, or warships. Cambodia's diplomatic support has been invaluable to Beijing's effort to claim disputed areas in the South China Sea. Because Cambodia is a member of ASEAN, and because under ASEAN rules the objections of one member can thwart any group initiative, Cambodia is diplomatically useful to China as a counterweight to Southeast Asian nations that have closer ties to the United States. 148 Cambodia is the 70th most peaceful country in the world, according to the 2024 Global Peace Index. 149 Military article, Royal Cambodian Armed Force. Royal Cambodian Army officers marching Hun Sen has accumulated highly centralized power in Cambodia, including a Praetorian Guard that appears to rival the capabilities of the country's regular military units, and is allegedly used by Hun Sen to quell political opposition. 150 Cambodia signed the UN Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. 151 Political culture. General Hun Manet succeeded his father Hun Sen as Prime Minister in August 2023. Hun Sen was a former Khmer Rouge commander who was originally installed by the Vietnamese and, after the Vietnamese left the country, maintains his strongman position by violence and oppression when deemed necessary. 152 In 1997, fearing the growing power of his co-prime minister, Prince Norodom Ranariddh, Hun launched a coup, using the army to purge Ranariddh and his supporters. Ranariddh was ousted and fled to Paris, while other opponents tortured, and some summarily executed. 152-153 In addition to political oppression, the Cambodian government has been accused of corruption in the sale of areas of land to foreign investors, resulting in the eviction of thousands of villagers. 154 As well as taking bribes in exchange for grants to exploit Cambodia's oil wealth and mineral resources. 155 Cambodia is consistently listed as one of the most corrupt governments in the world. 156-157-158 Amnesty International recognizes one prisoner of conscience in the country. 33-year-old land rights activist Yorm Bofa. 159 Journalists covering a protest over disputed election results in Phnom Penh on September 22, 2013 say they were deliberately attacked by police and men in plain clothes, with slingshots and stun guns. The attack against the president of the Overseas Press Club of Cambodia, Rick Valenzuela, was captured on video. The violence came amid political tensions as the opposition boycotted the opening of parliament due to concerns about electoral fraud. 7 reporters sustained minor injuries while at least 2 Cambodian protesters were hit by slingshot projectiles and hospitalized. 160 In 2017, Cambodia's Supreme Court dissolved the main opposition party, Cambodia National Rescue Party (CNEP), paving the way for a return to a yet more authoritarian political system. 161 Corruption. Further information: corruption in Cambodia. Corruption affects the judiciary, the police, and other state institutions. There is favoritism. Lack of a distinction between the courts and the executive branch of government makes for a politicization of the judicial system. 162 Examples of areas where people encounter corrupt practices in their everyday lives include obtaining medical services, dealing with alleged traffic violations, and pursuing fair court verdicts. Companies deal with extensive red tape when obtaining licenses and permits, especially construction-related permits, and the demand for and supply of bribes exist in this process. The 2010 anti-corruption law provided no protection to whistleblowers, and whistleblowers can be jailed for up to 6 months if they report corruption that cannot be proven. 162 Legal profession. Cambodian legal profession was established in 1932. By 1978, due to the Khmer Rouge regime, the entire legal system was eradicated. Judges and lawyers were executed after being deemed class enemies, and only 6-12 legal professionals actually survived and remained in the country. 163 Lawyers did not reappear until 1995 when the Bar Association of the Kingdom of Cambodia was created. 165 Human Rights. Main article: Human Rights in Cambodia. Cambodia's deputy opposition leader Kem Sokha Left has been arrested in September 2017, while opposition leader Sam Rainsy Right has lived in exile since November 2015. A State Department report says forces under Hun Sen and the Cambodian People's Party have committed frequent and large-scale abuses, including extrajudicial killings and torture, with impunity. 166. According to the 2016 Global Slavery Index, an estimated 256,800 people are enslaved in modern-day Cambodia, or 1.65% of the population. 167 There are forced land evictions by senior officials, security forces, and government-connected business leaders. 168 Land has been confiscated from hundreds of thousands of Cambodians over more than a decade for the purpose of self-enrichment and maintaining power of various groups of special interests. 169 Credible non-governmental organizations estimate that 770,000 people have been adversely affected by land grabbing, covering at least 4 million hectares, nearly 10 million acres of land that have been confiscated, says Paris-based International Federation for Human Rights FID. 170 On March 14, 2018, the expert on the human rights situation in Cambodia expressed serious concerns about restrictions on the media, freedom of expression, and political participation ahead of a national election in July. 171 Some critics of the government have been arrested for allegedly spreading fake news about the COVID-19 pandemic in Cambodia. 172-173 Economy article: Economy of Cambodia. Aerial GDP per capita. Development of Cambodia. Food stands in Sime Reap oil and natural gas deposits found beneath Cambodia's territorial waters in 2005 yield potential and remain mostly untapped, due in part to territorial disputes with Thailand. 174-175 Paddy field in Sime Reap province. In 2012, Credit Bureau Cambodia was established with direct regulatory oversight by the National Bank of Cambodia. 176 Fear of renewed political instability and corruption within the government discourage foreign investment and delay foreign aid, while there has been aid from bilateral and multilateral donors. Donors pledged $504 million to the country in 2004-79, while the Asian Development Bank alone has provided $850 million in loans, grants, and technical assistance. 177 Bribes are sometimes demanded from companies operating in Cambodia when obtaining licenses and permits, such as construction-related permits. 178 Farmers harvesting rice in Battambang province of Cambodia ranked among the worst places in the world for organized labor in the 2015 International Trade Union Confederation ITUC Global Rights Index, landing in the category of countries with no guarantee of rights. 179 In April 2016, Cambodia's National Assembly has adopted a law on trade unions. The law was proposed at a time when workers have been staging sustained protests in factories and in the streets demanding wage increases and improvements in their working conditions. 180 The concerns about Cambodia's new law are shared not only by labor and rights groups but international organizations more generally. The International Labour Organization ILO Country Office for Thailand, Cambodia, and Laos PDR has noted that the law has several key concerns and gaps. 181 Textiles. The garment industry represents the largest portion of Cambodia's manufacturing sector, accounting for 80% of the country's exports. In 2012, the exports grew to $4.61 billion, up 8% over 2011. In the first half of 2013, the garment industry reported exports worth $1.56 billion. 182 Better Factories. Cambodia was created in 2001 as a partnership between the ILO and the International Finance Corporation (IFC), a member of the World Bank Group. The program engages with workers, employers, and governments to improve working conditions and boost the competitiveness of the garment industry. 183. On May 18, 2018, the Project Advisory Committee (PAC) of the ILO Better Factories Cambodia program met in Phnom Penh to provide input into the draft conclusions and recommendations of the BSEC's independent midterm evaluation, as well as to discuss options on how to further strengthen the program's transparent reporting initiative. The members of the PAC concurred with the findings of the evaluation related to the impact the program has had on the Cambodian garment sector and workers, including a. contributing to sustained overall growth of the garment industry, b. improving the lives of at least 500,000 Cambodian workers of factories in the BFEC program and many more of their family members, c. ensuring that workers receive correct wages and social protection benefits, d. virtually eliminating child labor in the sector, e. making Cambodia's garment factories safer overall, f. creating a level playing field for labor across garment sector, g. influencing business practices through 1. using factory data to highlight areas for improvement, and 2. being a core part of risk management strategies of international brands buyers. 1. Aid for tourism. This section needs to be updated. Please help update this article to reflect recent events or newly available information. August 2019. Main article: Tourism in Cambodia. Every year, nearly 2.6 million 185 tourists visit Angkor Wat in Sime Reap, Cambodia. The tourism industry is the country's second greatest source of hard currency after the textile industry. 73 international visitor arrivals in 2018 topped 6 million, a tenfold increase since the beginning of the 21st century. 186 Tourism employs 26% of the country's workforce, which translates into roughly 2.5 million jobs for Cambodians. 187 Besides Phnom Penh and Angkor Wat, other tourist destinations include Sihanoukville in the southwest, which has beaches, and Battambang in the northwest, both of which are stops for backpackers. 188. The area around Kampot and Kep, including the Bokor Hill Station, are also of interest to visitors. Tourism has increased steadily each year in the relatively stable period since the 1993 UNTAC elections. 189 Rabbit Island, Koh Tan Zay in Cambodia. Most international arrivals in 2018 were Chinese. Tourism receipts exceeded $4.4 billion in 2018, accounting for almost 10% of the kingdom's gross national product. The Angkor Wat Historical Park in Siem Reap Province, the beaches in Sihanoukville, the capital city Phnom Penh, and Cambodia's 150 casinos, up from just 57 in 2001 for 190, are the main attractions for foreign tourists. Cambodia's reputation as a safe destination for tourism has been hindered by civil and political unrest. 19119-193 and several examples of crime committed against tourists visiting the kingdom. 194195196 Cambodia's tourist souvenir industry employs people around the main places of interest. The quantity of souvenirs produced is insufficient to face the increasing number of tourists. Most products sold to tourists on the markets are imported from China, Thailand, and Vietnam. 197. Transportment article. Transport in Cambodia. National Highway for Cambodia has 2 rail lines totaling about 612 kilometers, 380 miles of single, 1 meter 3 foot 3 inch gauge track. 198. The lines run from the capital to Sihanoukville on the southern coast. Trains are again running to and from the Cambodian capital and destinations in the south. After 14 years, regular rail services between the two cities restarted, offering a safer option than road for travelers. 199. Trains run from Phnom Penh to Sisophon. Trains often run only as far as Battambang. As of 1987, only 1 passenger train per week operated between Phnom Penh and Battambang, and a $141 million project, funded mostly by the Asian Development Bank, has been started to revitalize the languishing rail system that will interlink Cambodia with major industrial and logistics centers in Bangkok and Ho Chi Minh City. 198 Phnom Penh Airport shuttle train. In 2004, the number of road fatalities per 10,000 vehicles was 10 times higher in Cambodia than in the developed world, and the number of road deaths had doubled in the preceding 3 years. 200 The Mekong and the Tone Sap River, their tributaries, and the Tone Sap provided avenues, including 3,700 kilometers to 300 miles navigable all year by craft drawing 0.6 meters to 0 feet, and another 282 kilometers 175 miles navigable to craft drawing 1.8 meters 9 feet. 201 With increasing economic activity has come an increase in automobile use, while motorcycles still predominate. 202 Cyclo as hand-me-down French or cycle rickshaws were more popular in the 1990s and are increasingly replaced by remorques carriages attached to motorcycles and rickshaw. Cyclos are unique to Cambodia in that the cyclist sits behind the passenger seat. 203 Cambodia has 3 commercial airports. In 2018, they handled a record of 10 million passengers. 204 Science and Technology article. Science and Technology in Cambodia. National Committee for Science and Technology representing 11 ministries has been in place since 1999. While 7 ministries are responsible for the country's 33 public universities, the majority of these institutions come under the umbrella of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports. 205 In 2010, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports approved a policy on research development in the education sector. This move represented the first step towards a national approach to research and development across the university sector and the application of research for the purposes of national development. 205 This policy was followed by the country's first National Science and Technology Master Plan 2014 to 2020. It was officially launched by the Ministry of Planning in December 2014 as the culmination of a 2-year process supported by the Korea International Cooperation Agency. The plan makes provision for establishing a science and technology foundation to promote industrial innovation, with a particular focus on agriculture, primary industry, and ICS. 205-206. Cambodia was ranked 103rd in the Global Innovation Index in 2004. 207 Energy Main article. Energy in Cambodia. Cambodia has potential for developing renewable energy resources. It serves as a model to learn from for other ASEAN countries in terms of conducting solar power auctions. 208 To attract more investment in renewable energy, the government could improve renewable energy governance, adopt clear targets, develop an effective regulatory framework, improve project bankability, and facilitate market entry for international investors. 208 Cambodia is highly vulnerable to the negative effects of climate change, and it is advised that the country focuses more on developing renewable energy as part of climate change mitigation measures. 209 National Institute of Statistics, General Population Census of the Kingdom of Cambodia 2019, Chapter 2, Pete 6132. The French Protectorate of Cambodia conducted its first official census in 1921. Only men aged 20 to 60 were counted, as its purpose was for the collection of taxes. 210 After the 1962 population census was conducted, Cambodia's civil conflicts and instability lead to a 36-year-long gap before the country could have another official census in 1998. 211 As of 2010, half of the Cambodian population is younger than 22 years old. At a 1.04 female-to-male ratio, Cambodia has the most female-biased sex ratio in the Greater Mekong sub-region. 212 Among the Cambodian population aged over 65, the female-to-male ratio is 1:6:179. The total fertility rate in Cambodia was 2.5 children per woman in 2018-213. The fertility rate was 4.0 children in 2000-21. For women in urban areas have 2.2 children on average, compared with 3.3 children per woman in rural. Fertility is highest in Mandal Kiri and Ratanak Kiri provinces, where women have an average of 4.5 children, and lowest in Phnom Penh, where women have an average of 2.0 children. 214 Ethnic groups. Further information. Ethnic groups in Cambodian ethnic map of Cambodia. The majority of Cambodia's population is of ethnic Khmer origin. 95.8 who are speakers of the Khmer language, the country's sole official language. Cambodia's population is largely homogeneous. Its minority groups include Chams 1:8, Vietnamese 5, and Chinese 6 to 15 to 16. The Vietnamese are the second largest ethnic minority in Cambodia, with an estimated 16,000 living in provinces concentrated in the southeast of the country adjacent to the Mekong Delta. While the Vietnamese language has been determined to be a Mon Khmer language, there are fewer cultural connections between the two peoples because the early Khmers were influenced by the Indian cultural sphere while the Vietnamese are part of the Chinese cultural sphere. 217 ethnic tensions between the Khmer and the Vietnamese can be traced to the post-Angkor period from the 16th to 19th centuries, during which time Vietnam and Thailand each attempted to vassalize a weakened post-Angkor Cambodia and effectively dominate all of Indochina. 217 Chinese Cambodians are approximately 0.6% of the population. 216 Religion Main article. Religion in Cambodia. Theravada Buddhism is the official religion of Cambodia, practiced by more than 95% of the population, with an estimated 4,392 monastery temples throughout the country. 220 Islam is followed by about 2% of the population. There are three varieties of the religion, two of which are practiced by the Cham people. The third is practiced by the descendants of Malays, who have lived in the country for generations. Cambodia's Muslim population is reported to be 80% ethnic Cham. 221 Health Main article. Health in Cambodia. Cambodian life expectancy was 75 years in 2021, 222, an improvement since 1995 when the average life expectancy was 55, 223. Healthcare is offered by public and private practitioners, and research has found that trust in health providers is a key factor in improving the uptake of healthcare services in rural Cambodia. 2-4 Cambodia's infant mortality rate has decreased from 86 per 1,000 live births in 1998 to 24 in 2018. 2-5 In the province with worst health indicators, Ratanakiri, 22.9% of children die before age 5, 2-6. According to some estimates, unexploded landmines have been responsible for over 60,000 civilian deaths and thousands more maimed or injured since 1970-7. The number of reported landmine casualties has decreased from 800 in 2005 to 111 in 2013. 22 dead and 89 injured. 2-8 adults that survive landmines sometimes require amputation of one or more limbs and have to resort to begging for survival. 2-7. Cambodia is expected to be free of landmines by 2005 to 9, with the social and economic legacy, including orphans and 1 in 290 people being an amputee. 230. In Cambodia, landmines and exploded ordnance alone have caused 44,630 injuries between 1979 and 2013, according to the Cambodia Mine or OXO Victim Information System. 231. In the 2024 Global Hunger Index (GI), Cambodia ranks 68th out of 127 countries with sufficient data. Cambodia's GI score is 14.7, which indicates a moderate level of hunger. 232 Education Main article. Education in Cambodia. The Institute of Foreign Languages of the Royal University of Phnom Penh 2019 Cambodian census estimated that 88.5% of the population was literate. 91 of men and 86.2% of women. 132 male youth age 15-24 years have a literacy rate of 89% compared to 86% for females. 233 There have been improvements to the education system, especially in terms of primary net enrollment gains, the introduction of program-based budgeting, and the development of a policy framework which helps disadvantaged children to gain access to education. The country has invested in vocational education, especially in rural areas, to tackle poverty and unemployment. 234-235 Traditionally, education in Cambodia was offered by the Wat's Buddhist temples, thus providing education exclusively for the male population. 236 Education has underwent setbacks from child labor. A study by Kim 2011 reports that most employed children in Cambodia are enrolled in school and their employment is associated with late school entry, negative impacts on their learning outcomes, and increased dropout rates. 237 With respect to academic performance among Cambodian primary school children, research showed that parental attitudes and beliefs played a role. 238 Crime. Further information. Crime in Cambodia. In 2017, Cambodia had a homicide rate of 2.4 per 100,000 population. 239 Prostitution is illegal in Cambodia. In a series of 1993 interviews of women about prostitution, 3/4 of the interviewees found being a prostitute to be a norm and a profession they felt was not shameful. Having 240. That same year, it was estimated that there were about 100,000 sex workers in Cambodia. 240. On August 18, 2019, Prime Minister Hun Sen signed a directive banning the finance ministry from issuing new online gambling licenses, while operators currently holding online licenses would only be allowed to continue operating until those licenses expire. The directive cited the fact that some foreigners have used this form of gambling to cheat victims inside and outside the country as justifying the new policy. 2-for-1. Cambodia had issued over 150 such licenses before the new policy was announced. 2-for-2 Cultureman articles, Culture of Cambodia and Priya Ko Priya Ki, the 19th century illustration tale of Vorvong and Sorvong. Traditionally, the Khmer people have a recorded information on tra leaves. Tra leaf books record legends of the Khmer people, the Ramayana, the origin of Buddhism, and other prayer books. They are taken care of by wrapping in cloth to protect from moisture and the climate. 2-for-3 Bun Om Tuk Cambodian Water and Moon Festival, the annual boat rowing contest, is the most attended Cambodian national festival. Held at the end of the rainy season when the Mekong River begins to sink back to its normal levels, allowing the Tone Sap River to reverse flow. Approximately 10% of Cambodia's population attends this event each year to play games, give thanks to the moon, watch fireworks, dine, and attend the boat race in a carnival-type atmosphere. 2-for-4 Every year, Cambodians visit pagodas across the country to mark the Paikom Ben Ancestors' Day. During the 15-day festival, people offer prayers and food to the spirits of their dead relatives. For most Cambodians, it is a time to remember their relatives who died during the 1975 to 1979 Khmer Rouge regime. 2-for-5 Cuisine article, Cuisine of Cambodia is the staple grain, as in other Southeast Asian countries. Fish from the Mekong and Tone Sap rivers is a part of the diet. The supply of fish and fish products for food and trade as of 2000 was 20 kilograms 44 pounds per person, or 2 ounces per day per person. 2-for-6 French influence on Cambodian cuisine includes the Cambodian red curry with toasted baguette bread. The toasted baguette pieces are dipped in the curry and eaten. Cambodian red curry is eaten with rice and rice vermicelli noodles. A dine-out dish, kai tave, is a pork broth rice noodle soup with fried garlic, scallions, green onions that may contain toppings such as beef balls, shrimp, pork liver, or lettuce. Kampot pepper accompanies crab at the Kep crab shacks and squid in the restaurants on the Utrojak Jet River. 2-for-7 Tea is grown in Mondulkiri province and around Kiriram. 2-for-8 Tea Krolip is a strong tea, made by putting water and a mass of tea leaves into a glass, placing a saucer on top, and turning the whole thing upside down to brew. When it is dark enough, the tea is decanted into another cup and plenty of sugar added, and no milk. Lemon tea Tea Dao Krok Chma, made with Chinese red dust tea and lemon juice, is refreshing both hot and iced and is generally served with a more hefty dose of sugar. 2-for-9 Regarding coffee, the beans are generally imported from Laos and Vietnam, while domestically produced coffee from Ratanakiri province and Mondulkiri province can be found in some places. Beans are traditionally roasted with butter and sugar, plus various other ingredients that might include anything from rum to pork fat, giving the beverage a strange, sometimes faintly chocolatey aroma. 2-for-9 Cambodia has industrial breweries, located mainly in Sihanoukville province and Phnom Penh. There are a growing number of microbreweries in Phnom Penh and Sime Reap. 2-50-51 As of 2019, there are 12 brewpubs or microbreweries in Cambodia. 2-52 Rice wine is an alcoholic drink. It is sometimes infused with fruits or medicinal herbs. 2-53 When prepared with macerated fruits or spices, like the sambai liqueur, it is called S-ray tram soaked wine. 2-54-55-56 Dance a main article, Dance in Cambodia. Khmer Apsara Dancerkskammer. Classical dance is the form of stylized performance art established in the royal courts of Cambodia, exhibited for both entertainment and ceremonial purposes. 2-57 The dances are performed by costumed, trained men and women on public occasions for tribute, invocation, or to enact traditional stories and epic poems such as Reamker, the Khmer version of the Ramayana. 2-58 Cambodian folk dance, sometimes performed to Mahori music, celebrates the cultural and ethnic groups of Cambodia. Folk dances originated in the villages and are performed, for the most part, by the villagers for the villagers. 2-59 The movements are less stylized and the clothing worn is that of the people the dancers are portraying, such as hill tribes, chams, or farmers. Typically faster paced than classical dance, folk dances display themes of the common person such as love, comedy, or warding off evil spirits. 259 Music Main article, Music of Cambodia. Traditional Cambodian music dates back as far as the Khmer Empire. 260 Popular music is performed with Western-style instruments or a mixture of traditional and Western instruments. Dance music is composed in particular styles for social dances. The music of crooner Sin Sisamith, Ross Sari Sathia, and Pen Ran from the 1960s to the 1970s is considered to be the classic pop music of Cambodia. During the Khmer Rouge Revolution, some singers of the 1960s and 1970 seconds were murdered, starved to death, or overworked to death by the Khmer Rouge. 261 In the 1980s, Keo Sorith, a refugee resettled in the United States, and others carried on the legacy of the classic singers, sometimes remaking their popular songs. The 1980s and 1990 seconds saw the rise in popularity of Cantram, a music style of the Khmer Sorin set to modern instrumentation. 262 The Australian hip-hop group Astronomy Class has recorded with Kak Chanthi, a native-born Cambodian female singer.